Hello there. Good evening, everyone. This is Dari on WorldStreams Radio. Thank you to our listeners from all around the world for joining us tonight. To learn more about WorldStreams Radio, visit our website, worldstreams.org. You can also find us now on Facebook at facebook.com/WorldStreams. Our guest tonight is Andrei Codrescu. Andrei Codrescu was born in Romania and emigrated to the U.S. in 1966. He's a poet, novelist, essayist, teacher, and lecturer. He's also a regular commentator on National Public Radio and winner of the Peabody Award for the film Rhodes Scholar. He received National Endowment for the Arts Fellowships for Poetry and Editing, the Romanian Literature Prize, the ACLU Freedom of Speech Award, and the Ovidius Prize. Andrei's newest book, The Poetry Lesson, was just recently published, and we'll find out more about that tonight. Hi there, Saeed. Hello and welcome back, Andrei. It's an honor and pleasure to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, hello, Dari. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And Bună, Codrescu.
Yes, bună seara. Where did you learn Romanian?
Și mai fa.
I'm fine. I'm in the city of New Orleans, actually, walking
Wonderful.
toward my house.
It's good evening to you, Andrei Codrescu, and thank you for being with us tonight. Your book, The Poetry Lesson, starts on the first day of the last semester. How much of that did apply to actually being a memoir, a novel? We'll try to sort through all these things. A memoir, a novel, science fiction, fiction.
Well, I was experimenting. I had a 3 to 6 p.m. seminar, and I went to the coffee house after class, and I wrote about it. And so I was amused partly at what I was doing and the fact that it was my last class with my students. And so I, started, on a light vein, and then it ended up sliding down memory lane and thinking about various other things about poetry and the teaching of poetry and humanities and what it is we do in universities and so on. And so it became a short tract on the existence of people who live with ideas instead of, making things out of wood.
Well, in reality, you were actually breaking the walls of what is known as genres in literature, in creative writing, where walls have been put between one genre and another genre. So experimentation is actually a good, healthy thing.
Well, it's my life mission, really, to break down those walls because, I was born in a very small town that had medieval walls around it because they're always being under attack.
Yeah.
And in a country that was surrounded by barbed wire because we weren't supposed to leave it, and a Europe that had other kinds of walls. So, tearing down walls became a kind of mission. And writing poetry was definitely a way to sabotage and demolish these sort of barriers that were physically and intellectually constructed by, people we didn't like, especially as adolescents.
Right. So the premise of the book goes about a professor, which is actually you, and in your last semester before you retired, and you decided to very much put a relationship between life lessons and literature and creative writing, right?
Right, but I was also experimenting because it was my last class, and I decided to do some things I hadn't done before that would have probably gotten me fired or turned into Homeland Security. So I had fun. So this is, I wrote what could have been and what I actually did. So, it's a combination. In that sense, it is a memoir. In another sense, it's a fancy.
Well, you've always been known to be very unconventional in your writing, and is that really? I think is that the idea behind creative writing, being a creative writer, or is it that unconventional is a matter of character?
Well, no, I think it is particularly important right now in our time and age to be to not think in categories and to not cleave to genres, because we're changing. We're at a point in our evolutionary history where things are changing. Our technology is changing our bodies are changing, our environment is changing, and so it's important that when you are a teacher, that you are aware of these things, because all around you there is this incredible moving sea of evolutionary change, and so if you don't use the utmost of your creativity, you're in fact probably being mostly useless.
Well, creative writing obviously is not, one cannot separate it from literature, but we've seen a trend of corporatizing creative writing in America. What are your thoughts about that in the last 30 or 40 years? It's become big business.
Yes, it's a good question. I think that big publishers, for instance, are now listening to their marketing departments. The editors have a lot less to do with the propagation of literature than the marketing departments have about the making sellable products. And so what happens is that, it is the sort of focus groups that decide what the lowest common denominator is, and this is what they do. So the entire business of carrying on the enterprise of consciousness in motion falls to small publishers, to independent publishers, to people who don't have a lot of money and who don't care a lot about, what the literary establishment thinks, and actually carry on their experiments without any authority except the authority of their, of the people who did that before. But in the past, 20 years, we've seen just like this incredible decline in the integrity of understanding writing itself and creativity, and kind of folding into the imagined demands of the marketplace. Because I think that the stupidest people in the publishing and creative business are actually the marketing people, not because they are themselves stupid, but because they think other people are. And so they think that if they like it, it's probably not good enough because they're dumber people than they are around. So, they're actually, we've seen like really a dumbing down that it's not real. It's like, it's a sort of a, it's creative in its own way, but it's actually very damaging to feeling free in thinking and expressing yourself and just playing, which is ultimately what we all want to do as writers.
And this is why you were after in your book, when you tried to defy very much the unhealthy methods used in teaching creative writing, and also very much literature. What is the fine line here between something that is becoming a business and the evolution of a culture in general, and how do you see it?
That's, again, a very good question, because I think the enterprise of thinking in a form and making a book, and does have a kind of, you need an audience, you need to direct it to somebody. But I think I probably, if I read you this particular passage, which is the pedagogical mode class and the requirements I gave my class, I'll probably explain this better, actually. So, this was my last class, of course, and so I crystallized a bunch of thoughts I had about it, and I said, okay, well, this is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to hear that?
Oh, yeah. Please.
Yeah, it's called, it says, well, the teacher is in the pedagogical mode now, and he says, I'm going to write down for you the tools of poetry. Take notes. By next week, you must have 8 of them. There are two that have a purpose I'm not going to reveal to you until midterm. I wrote on the blackboard. The tools of poetry. 1, a goatskin notebook for writing down dreams. 2, Mont Blanc fountain pen, extra credit if it belonged to Madame Blavatsky. 3, a Chinese coin or a stone in your pocket for rubbing. 4, frequenting places where you can overhear things. 5, tiny recorders, spyglasses, microscopic listening devices. 6, a little man at the back of your head. 7, the ghost companion. 8, susceptibility to hypnosis. 9, large sheets of homemade paper, a stack a foot thick. A subscription to cable TV.
Woo.
So to number 5, there is an exception. I said, you cannot record anything said in this class because I don't want to go to prison for things I've said. Intro to poetry writing is like the confessional. Things said here are like things only your priest or your therapist is allowed to hear. Nobody in this class is permitted to repeat anything anybody in this class said or wrote. The reason for your goatskin notebook is so you can write an oath in blood in it, swearing never to whisper a word of what is I hear. I looked around. Only kidding, I added, seeing some sincerely frightened faces. There is no blood oath. But with the internet these days, it's hard to keep things discreet. I realized that this is not why you're here, that some of you may even want to be famous so that everybody in the world can read your poetry. But you must hold your horses until Poetry Writing 4007, which comes after Intro 2007, and is being taught by a terrible poet and execrable human being, even though he's a colleague of mine. I waited out the chuckles and continued. The goatskin notebook is for you to write your dreams in. Every day, without fail, you must write down what you dreamt, even if you haven't slept in weeks, which is what I did when I was your age. In addition to dreams, you must write down poetic ideas, which are these thoughts that come to you when you least expect them. Until now, you probably thought of these kinds of sudden thoughts as annoying, like involuntary twitches or muscle spasms, but they're actually poetic ideas. You are no longer allowed to dismiss them. You must write them down in your goatskin notebook. Also, in your goatskin notebook, you must jot down things that you are supposed to hear. Once you start frequenting places where you can overhear things, you must listen for things that you're not supposed to hear, even if, as it often happens, you mishear them. Mishearing is one of the muses of poetry. There are 10 muses of poetry. I stood up and wrote on the blackboard, the 10 muses of poetry. 1, mishearing. 2, misunderstanding. 3, mistranslating. 4, mismanaging. 5, misplaying. 6, misreading. 7, misappropriating cliches. 8, misplacing objects belonging to roommates or lovers. 9, misguided thoughts at inappropriate times, funerals, etc. 10, Mississippi, the river. Are we clear on this? Be clear on this, because all of it is part of your next week's assignment. And so it begins.